Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Praise be to Allah alone. We all praise Him and we seek His help. Whomsoever Allah guides is the truly guided one, and whomsoever Allah leaves astray, none can show him guidance. May the best peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear viewers everywhere, welcome to a new edition of your program Ask Huda. Our phone numbers beginning with the area code are 002-023855, 248 or 249. And the email addresses are ask@huda.tv, alternatively gardens@huda.tv. We also receive your questions on my personal official Facebook page, Dr. Muhammad Salah Official. And each week there are a couple of episodes which I upload on my Facebook page to answer these questions by the grace of Allah. May Allah make it easy for all of us to comprehend His deen and to act upon the best of what we learn. Allahumma ameen. Without any further ado, I have a couple of pending questions. Meanwhile, you can start ringing in, inshallah. The first question is from Sister Sabah from Canada. She said that she purchased a blanket and she found that there is an image of an eagle carved on the blanket. Can she still use it? Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, may Allah have mercy on him, was asked a similar question and he said this is pardoned because the pictures which are on the firash, on the spread, on the pillows or the blanket or the sheet on the bed, mumtahan means it is not something that you honor by hanging against the wall or put it in a frame and so on. And when Jibreel alayhi salam entered into the house of the Prophet ﷺ, he said that yesterday he came and he didn't enter because there was a curtain hanging and it has tasawir or images. In another incident, the Prophet ﷺ was praying and there was a curtain hanging which has an image of a bird. So he ordered Aisha radiallahu anha to tear it apart and stuff it as a liner for a pillow or a cushion. So since it is not something that you honor by hanging against the wall or in a frame or as a curtain, then there is no problem, insha'Allah. Her second question is, when I pray which prayer, I make the tashahhud after the second rak'ah. Is this right? If so, what is the evidence? Okay, first of all, the format of praying which, as you mentioned, this is approved in the Hanafi madhab. According to the vast majority of the Muslim jurists, and according to the sound hadith, which I can share some with you right now, that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray which as follows. In the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, it's a sound hadith, that he prayed the 3 rak'ahs all together without sitting for a middle tashahhud. So this is one hadith that shows us, and it is narrated by his wife, because normally he would pray which at home, that he used to pray the 3 rak'ahs all together without a middle tashahhud, just one tashahhud by the end. Fine. So if you want to do this, this is perfectly fine. Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Prophet ﷺ was seen praying the witr as follows: 2 rak'ahs, tashahhud, taslim, then 1 rak'ah by itself. The form which you mentioned, praying the witr, 2 rak'ahs, tashahhud, but without making taslim, rather going to the 3rd rak'ah, has been mentioned in a hadith, but as a prohibition. When the Prophet ﷺ said, do not resemble the witr prayer to the maghrib prayer. So simply, if I have 2 different forms, or 3, have been all narrated in sound hadith and approved by the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed like that, and I have one which may have some doubt or disliked, why do I stick to this one? Remember, we all agreed, when it comes to our deen, I don't say, I am Shafi'i, or I am Maliki or Hanafi. I shared with you repeatedly that I studied the Hanafi fiqh for 7 consecutive years, then Shafi'i for another 4 years, and then comparative fiqh for several years, alhamdulillah. Then when you study all of that, and when you hear from those scholars and the founders of the schools of thoughts of fiqh, you realize that they all go back to the main source, which is the Prophet ﷺ. The differences mainly happen as a result of lacking the evidence, or perhaps relying on an evidence, a reference, a hadith, which may be later on proven to be weak. Or I do have an abrogating hadith which is more profound. Then this is the end of the story. We say, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. He was his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All the Sahaba, all the Tabi'een, all the followers of At-Tabi'een, and all the scholars, their views may be right and may be wrong. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu gave a fatwa in a sitting. Then somebody else said, no, ya Amir, ya Khalifata Rasulillah, because Abu Bakr was the first caliph. But I have heard Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a similar incident did this, where he gave a share of 1/6 to the grandmother. Abu Bakr didn't know about it, so he changed his view once it was confirmed that there is a reference. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu with another companion, likewise. Uthman ibn Affan with Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. So it doesn't mean that anybody other than the Prophet ﷺ knows everything, or all his views are right. Imam Malik said, every person's view could be right, could be wrong, may be taken, may be rejected, except for one person. And this person is dead. Then he pointed to his grave, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which is an emphatic sunnah. We should not really make a big deal. And you know how many times this question have been asked? Thousands of times. This is really amazing. Why? Because people keep saying, but I come from this part of the world where we pray with this way. Finally, this is how the Prophet ﷺ used to pray with, and I mentioned at least 2 narrations. Also used to pray, sometimes you can pray 5 rak'ahs altogether with 1 taslim by the end, 1 tashahhud and 1 taslim. 7 rak'ahs likewise, as long as it is odd by the end. But if you pray 9, then on the 8th rak'ah, you sit for tashahhud. Then you get up and you pray the 9th, then tashahhud and taslim again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Uthman from Nigeria, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program. I forgot to raise a sign, please mute your TV.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, go ahead. You didn't mute your TV set yet.
About the celebration of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Uthman, I won't be able to continue unless if you mute your TV, please.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I have a question of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam celebration. Is it that celebration is true or not in Islamic religion?
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to drop this call, but I got your question. Thank you. Okay. May I ask the director to make a sign for me so I would raise it every time somebody leaves his TV set on or the volume high, because it creates an echo and it causes a delay and it wastes plenty of time. I got your question. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The least number of rak'ahs, of which is 1 rak'ah. Can you just pray which 1 rak'ah? Yes, but this is the least. Al-witr is an emphatic sunnah. It's very important. It's something that the Prophet ﷺ put a lot of emphasis and stress on, to the point that even if he was traveling, where he would skip the emphatic sunnah, but he would pray witr and the 2 rak'ahs before Fajr. He said in the hadith which is collected by Imam Muslim, Al-witru rak'atun min akhir al-layl. That's it. Also he said, Salatul layli mathna mathna. فإن خشي أحدكم الصبح صلى ركعة واحدة توتر له ما قد صلى. Hadith is also collected by Imam Bukhari or Muslim. Salatul Layli Mathna Mathna means the night prayer is 2 by 2. You can pray 4, but the ideal form of praying the Nafil prayer is 2 by 2. Then approaching the dawn or Fajr time, if you're afraid that the adhan will be called, then pray 1 rak'ah. It will do it. That is called the witr. تُوتِرُ لَهُ مَا قَدْ صَلَّى. It will be the witr of his night prayer. Thank you, Sister Saba from Canada. Sister Aisha from Ghana said in her question, is it allowed for a girl from a religious family to get married to a man who is not religiously committed? Okay, if you're talking about permissible or not permissible, if the person is Muslim and is maintaining the minimum requirement of the acts of worship, he has a correct aqidah and he prays and he fasts and he pays his alms, yes, it is permissible. But what is better? What is the recommendation? The Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا جَاءَكُم مَّن تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَأَمَانَتَهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ إِلَّا تَفْعَلُوا تَكُنْ فِتْنَةٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَفَسَادٌ عَظِيمٌ. So he required the guardian and the girl as well, the whole family. I normally say when a guy gets married to a girl, when a girl marries a guy, it is not only a couple who get married. This is like merging two families. So make sure that everybody is happy. Everybody is in agreement. Some people will say it's impossible. No, it is possible. What happens when the girl marries against her parents' will? This marriage does not last. And if it does, she has to sever her relations with her family. What happens when the guy, the groom, marries without his mother's agreement, even though it's not required in the Sharia? Marriage will be valid. What happens as a result? She would live, even if they live in the same house, hating, disliking this girl, and she will keep actually inspiring him to divorce her. This is a miserable life. So marriage is merging two families in a melting pot. Uncles and aunts, grandparents from paternal and maternal sides, and so on. And if we were to make the decision correctly, the Prophet ﷺ said two criterions, two major criterions. First is the religious commitment. تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ. He doesn't have to be like with a huge prayer mark where he prays all night long or he fasts Mondays and Thursdays. If I have this, that would be great. But if the person is regular in his prayer and in the masjid, he is honest and he's sincere and he has good manners, he passes. Fine. But if people are looking for somebody who is rich, regardless, he doesn't pray, he will, inshallah. Actually, he doesn't fast, she's going to make him fast. And eventually she's going to take him for Hajj. I'm telling you, forget it. Most likely, she will quit praying. Most likely, he will make her take off her hijab. Most likely, she will be divorced and she will come back to you as a divorcee and you will start the whole journey from the beginning. Trust me, and I'm pretty sure for those who are following the program, this is the 9th year now. You hear these questions and these cases all the time. If you don't do that, it will lead to fitnatun fil ardi wa fasadun arid. The wide spread of corruption and mischief on earth. May Allah guide us to what is best. Waliullah from Yemen. Waliullah says in his question, does the torment in the grave reduce or remove the torment on the day of resurrection? In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-qabru awwalu manazil al-akhirah. The first stage of the journey of the hereafter is the grave. If the person was treated good in the grave, then whatever next is easier. If the person was protected against the torment of the grave, then this is a good news. In the hadith of Al-Imam Ahmad, which is narrated by Al-Bara and others, let's take some calls, inshallah, and I will continue with the hadith. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Muhammad from the KSA.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shaykh.
Ahlan wa sahlan. I'm fine, alhamdulillah, barakallah feek.
Alhamdulillah. Sheikh, I have a question regarding loan. Okay. Actually, I went to a bank today to take to find out if they can give me a loan like let's say 100,000 riyals. Okay. And they gave me an installment murabaha contract, which says it is Sharia compliant and 5% should be paid within a period of 4 years. Is this, I mean, they say it's Sharia compliant, but is this riba or, I mean, I'm confused. I don't...
No, Muhammad, I'll make it easy for you. If you answer me a simple question, that with the last installment that you have to pay, whether in 2, 3, 4, or 10 years from now, the total sum of your payment will be worth how much?
It will be 5% of the total amount, but in monthly installments.
So it will be 105,000, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's riba. It's as simple as that. Qard, or a loan, which is known as al-qard al-hasan, the goodly loan is, I give you 10 grands, you give them back to me 10 grands. 15, you pay them back 15. You pay them back 15 and 1 riyal or 50 halala, this extra is riba. It doesn't have to be money, like you give me 15,000 that I lent to you, and you give me 1 kilogram of ajwa from Medina. That's riba. Anything extra, if we agreed to that from the beginning, يعني, if I put a condition that I would only give you that much money to be paid back on an installment over a year or two, provided you give me 500, you give me a gift, you give me whatever, and you name it, this extra is riba. But look at this other condition, where I lent you 15,000 or the 100,000 that you are in need for, and after 2 years you settle all your debt, and out of generosity from you, you bought me a gift worth 5,000 or 10,000. Or you give me extra cash as a gift, that is accepted. So this is not riba? No, this is not riba. Why? Because we did not pre-agree to it. It was something out of generosity from you. Allah made it easy for you. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did that when a Jew have lent the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam some date and or barley, and he came to recall them, and Umar ibn Khattab wanted to beat him because he spoke to the Prophet ﷺ inappropriately. So Nabi ﷺ said, go and pay him his dues and give him that much extra because he frightened him. Why? Because they did not pre-agree to that. It's extra, it's a gift. But your case is absolutely usury. May Allah make it easy for you to collect the money from somewhere else where you don't have to pay interest. Sister Maryam from the KSA is next on the line. Assalamu alaikum. Naam. Sister Maryam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I am Amaya.
Unfortunately, I cannot hear you clearly. We'll skip this call until you find a better line, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Husna from the KSA.
Wa alaikum salam, Sheikh.
How are you, sister?
Wa alaikum salam.
Go ahead.
I have 3 questions to ask.
Now.
The first one is, what is the ruling of shaking the index finger when you reach Atahiyatu? Is it a must that we have to shake, or you can just point it out when you reach the time you say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah?
Okay. Second.
And the second one, some people say after making wudu, you cannot put your fingers between each other. They say you nullify your wudu. Is it correct?
Okay.
And the third one is, I have a friend who wants to put, the extension and the wig on her hair. And then I told her that this is haram in Islam. And then she told me, I was told by another woman that you can put it for your husband. Then I asked her, so how are you going to pray? He said, it's okay, I can put a wig for my husband, and when it's time for praying, I will remove it.
Okay, you're asking about wearing a wig for a woman.
Yeah,
no.
Wig or the extension, the hair, extension hair.
Yeah.
So I want to give her a correct answer, so if you can help me with this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Barakallah fikum. Sister Husna from the KSA. طيب. In the hadith which is collected by Imam Ahmad, it's a very long hadith. We discussed it before, that when the believer ends up in his grave and he will be questioned, the 3 questions by the 2 angels, Munkar and Nakir, and when he passes the exam which he previously knew its contents, but if he's a believer, he will be able to answer the questions, Rabbi Allah, Rasuli Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Dini al-Islam. Then afterward, he would see a man who would appear to him in his grave with a very beautiful and bright face and a good fragrance. He will ask him, who are you? You have such a beautiful face which will bring good news. He said, don't you know me? He said, not really. He said, أنا عملك الصالح. I am your good deeds. Then a window in his grave will be open towards heaven. He will be able to see his seat in Al-Jannah from this window. At that he will say, Rabbi aqim as-sa'a. My Lord, hasten the day of judgment. Establish the day of judgment as soon as possible. Why? Because he wants to enter Al-Jannah to occupy his seat in heaven. The opposite will happen with the wicked ones. So, whatever the person would receive in the grave will be an introduction to what's going to happen afterward. The torment in the grave has been confirmed by the Quran and the sound Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And accordingly, there is some torment will be everlasting in the grave from the moment the person would die until resurrection. Why? This is for the disbelievers. In Surah Ghafir, Allah the Almighty says, النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا ويوم تقوم الساعة أدخلوا آل فرعون أشد العذاب. There are certain people such as the disbelievers. For example, this ayah of Surah Ghafir refers to the Pharaoh and his host, the non-believers, those who disbelieved in Musa and his message. So they died, and they're being punished in their graves. Somebody will say, but they died, they were drowned in the sea. It doesn't matter. In the sea, or their bodies were burned and their ashes were thrown in the wind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would deal with them likewise. Even if the person was drowned or swallowed by the fish or died on moon, it doesn't matter. They will be tortured day and night, in the morning and the evening. Then, وَيَوْمَ تَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ, which means the punishment is continuous, non-stop and constant, until the day of judgment. Then what's going to happen on the day of judgment? أَدْخِلُوا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ أَشَدَّ الْعَذَابِ. The worst of torment is still to come on the day of judgment. What about the believers after this call, inshallah? Assalamu alaikum. Peter from the USA. Peter, assalamu alaikum. Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Sheikh Salah, for taking my call.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much. Enjoy the approach. I wanted to ask a question concerning making dawah. I want to make dawah similar to the door-to-door technique of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Can you give me some recommendations, please, inshallah?
Okay, how long you been a Muslim, Peter?
Well, alhamdulillah, I've been a Muslim for almost 15, maybe 20 years as an American military. I took Shahada back in 1992.
MashaAllah. Okay. There are a couple of things. First, I will give you a brief answer due to for the sake of time of the program. Besides that, you can simply leave your phone number. Inshallah, we'll contact you. We can happily sign you in a class, and we'll be more than happy to pay the tuitions for you for da'wah class to attend to learn the right methodology of da'wah and the proper means of da'wah, inshallah. Okay, so if you leave your number and your email address, will be more than happy to do that for you, inshallah. And I did mention in the last episode, it was pre-recorded though, it's on my Facebook page. When I have a revert, a brother or a sister who wanted to study Islamic studies, and we offer her or him a free scholarship in Huda Academy, a full scholarship in Huda Academy. We do that for reverts and for new Muslims, especially those who cannot afford to pay. This is an entirely non-profit organization and business we do. We do it for the sake of Allah. And that's why we encourage those who would like to sponsor students, particularly reverts. We'll be more than happy to assist them in this regard, inshallah. Since the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ad-dallu ala al-khayri kafa'ilih." One who guides people to righteousness will get the same reward as they do, without diminishing the reward of either one of them. You can simply drop us an email that I would like to sponsor a student or two or three, and inshallah we can arrange for that. Thank you so much. I found, I want to continue with the hadith. So there are some people where their torment will be continuous, non-stop in the grave. Then on the day of judgment, it will even get worse. The non-believers, those who did not believe in the oneness of Allah, died in a state of disbelief. What about Muslims who happen to be involved in sins? Yes, there will be a punishment, especially if they did not repent and if their sins were not entirely forgiven in the dunya. We have the incident, the Prophet ﷺ was walking once, he passed by the graveyard, then he asked his companions, "Can you give me some green branches of the palm trees?" They said, "Why?" He stopped by two graves and he said, "إِنَّهُمَا يُعَذَّبَانِ وَمَا يُعَذَّبَانِ فِي كَبِيرٍ." Because the dwellers of these two graves are being punished in their graves. Why? Because one of them used not to clean up after urination, accordingly his prayer is invalid, and the other used to walk amongst people with calumnies, with namima. He used to do backbiting and slandering and so on. So he said when he placed the two green branches, I hope that the punishment will be lightened for them so long as these two branches are green, which indicates that the punishment for the believers will be temporary until they are purified from their sins. And it can be lightened, unlike the case of the non-believers. And it can be waived entirely, and they will be eligible for intercession, and Allah can pardon them absolutely. And also Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, listed amongst the things which are considered as ransoms for one's sins, the punishment in the grave. Yani, if the person happens to receive some punishment in the grave, that will remove some of his or her sins. Dammatul qabr, the squeeze of the grave, which every person will go through, it's very terrible and horrible. That would also lighten the punishment or perhaps waive the punishment on the day of judgment. And this is out of mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Abdul Rahman from the KSA.
Actually, this is a question from my 10-year-old daughter. Can you please explain it from her point of view that is it permissible to celebrate birthdays? Because I am convinced it is not, but from her perspective, from a child's perspective.
You're talking about celebrating birthdays?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And another question is, recently here, I stay in Riyadh. I met a revert from Norway. She was a Catholic Christian. She was very much happy to meet an English-speaking expatriate like me, because in the masjid they all were Arab, so she was not able to communicate with them. And how can I guide her? She sent me a message that she wants to learn about Islam. She's married to an Egyptian Arab. So I'm very much not sure how can I help her out. She has reverted to Islam maybe last summer, she said. Can you please help me to help her out?
Which city are you in KSA?
Riyadh.
Riyadh. You know, sister, there are many offices that help reverts and non-Muslims who want to know about Islam. And these societies are very, are spread everywhere. And as a matter of fact, what I will do is I'll try to collect some informations about these offices and put them in the promo so that Muslims and non-Muslims who happen to be in these countries can actually locate these offices and go and visit them. I was invited to some of these offices and I was very impressed to see this huge number of new Muslims. But unfortunately, it is not really propagated very well. So I would kindly request the management to make sure that we have a complete data about these offices, and every once in a while we can announce their addresses and phone numbers. Thank you, Sister Abdul Rahman, for bringing this to our attention. We're going to take a short break. Inshallah, I'll be back very soon. Stay tuned, please.
Imagine that the Anbiya, they were the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they had the hardest times.
He assumed that he had some kind of superiority and he was a better, more chosen, a better person because he had this wealth. And then you look at all the other people who had wealth, and some of them were the worst people. You had Fir'aun and
reviving your niyyah time and again, that you're doing insincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Most of the youth, they think, oh, I'm going to pray when I'm old, it's okay now, I'll have fun in my life. Later on I'll work, I'll go on my bed, I'll pray 5 times a day. And all these things, they think that's later on in their life, and they don't know when they will die.
Amira, who's your role model?
Khadija radiallahu anha.
And why?
Because she was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's wife, and she was the first lady to believe in Islam.
We can't just take knowledge and keep it as information. We have to transfer it into action. When he got up, he said one thing. Asalla nas? Did the people pray? In Hajj, for example, the primary example of how multiculturalism really looks like. All equal. I've got a dentist in Canada. Even though he's ripping holes in my teeth, he's got great akhlaq. I love visiting him. Identify the issue. Analyze it. Challenge it. And then try again. Because if you fail, big deal. Try again and keep trying.
اللهم إني أسألك الفردوس الأعلى من الجنة. اللهم إني أسألك الفردوس الأعلى من الجنة.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله.
I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, alone without partner, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his slave and messenger.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. First question we have from Sister Husna from the KSA with regards to pointing with the index finger. Is it a must in the tashahhud? And when do we shake it? She said shake it. When do we move it? Pointing with the middle finger, with the index finger during the tashahhud is a sunnah, and a hay'ah which would not invalidate the prayer if you do not do it. So if you do it, you will be rewarded for it. As far as how would you do it and how often you shake or move your index finger while in the tashahhud, there is no specific reference. We have the hadith of Wa'il ibn Hujr, may Allah be pleased with him, when he said that I have seen him يدعو بها ويحركها. يعني while he was making dua, he used to move his finger up and down. There are some madhahib who would believe that to move it right and left, and some would say that to keep pointing with the index finger throughout the tashahhud, and only when you come to say أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له, to move it or to move it up and down. All of that, these are all different opinions, but it would not affect the validity of the prayer by any means. And I thought that the closest to the right is keep pointing with the index finger during the tashahhud, whether the middle tashahhud or the last tashahhud. Then also when you come to make dua by the end, يدعو بها, like when you say اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. This is a dua. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من فتنة المحيا والممات وفتنة المسيح الدجال. Also, اللهم اغفر لي ما قدمت وما أخرت وما أسررت وما أعلنت. Any dua according to the hadith of Wa'il ibn Hujr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum Aba Arfan.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My name is Abu Asim.
Naam.
I
Abu
have
Asim.
Yes, I have been trying to contact you for a long time. It was my dream, wallahi, to meet you sometime, and inshallah, I will inshallah meet sometime.
Jazakallahu khairan, Abu Asim. I'm very easy to reach, and it will be a pleasure to meet you as well, inshallah.
Okay. Sheikh Salah,
Go ahead.
I read in the newspaper about our brothers in Syria. They have been eating cats and dogs, and our sisters have to sell their body to get the food. It is very painful. What, as a Muslim, we should do?
Jazakallahu khairan, Abu Asim.
And I have one, my daughter, who is in Australia, she wants to talk to you for her personal issue.
Sure.
And I would like to have your cell phone if possible.
Okay, the brothers will be happy, inshallah, to provide you with the phone number. Jazakallahu khairan. I would like to begin by tackling the issue of Syria, which brings a very big shame to the entire Ummah, whether Syria or Burma, particularly these two places. And not to forget about Gaza, the Gaza Strip. They are under siege for several years now, and now they're being under siege by Muslim countries. Yes, indeed, by Muslim countries. And I would say what is happening in Syria, it is because the Muslim countries and the Muslim leadership are lacking behind in fulfilling their role. Yes, they will be held accountable before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're blameworthy, etc. But what about us? We have, in fact, several ways to help and assist. For instance, we know that groups who go through Turkey to provide these camps with food. Then we must assist them financially. And our zakah money, a great portion of that should be going towards providing the Syrian refugees in these refugee camps, here or there. If you do have social media websites, if you do have Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, sharing these informations may awaken the conscience of some people who have an access to do something, or in the position of a decision making position. So yes, we have to keep talking about it, and I think that we did a series of programs about Syria and Save Syria and so on. We do, for instance, we have thousands and thousands of Syrian refugees families in Egypt. By the grace of Allah, alhamdulillah, we're trying to do whatever we can do as far as supporting them financially, hosting them, paying the rent and so on. Despite the fact that Egyptians are also suffering a great deal now, and they're experiencing a very, very hard time with the crackdown on the non-profit organizations and confiscating their assets and so on. It is getting hard all over the Muslim world. It is indeed getting very hard all over the Muslim world. I've spoken about that repeatedly. But one thing that they cannot confiscate from us, your tongue, your heart, whenever you are praying, you can make dua. And don't you ever belittle the power of dua. Dua is the sharpest weapon of the believers. Believe it or not, in these dictatorship societies, now they're even banning dua. So the imams are not allowed to make dua and ask the people and the mujahideen and ask Allah to support the mujahideen or the weak and the oppressed, because they think that when you make dua, you bring to the attention of the common folk the need of the needy ones, then you are causing a state of unrest and so on. I swear, and this is my personal view, it's a war against Islam. It's a war against Islam. And this war has been transferred, the battlefield has become in the Muslim soil, on the Muslim soil, in the Muslim countries. Our role is وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيَعٌ وَصَلَوَاتٌ وَمَسَاجِدُ يُذْكَرُ فِيهَا اسْمُ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا وَلَيَنْصُرَنَّ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ. So raise the awareness, support financially, make dua, and if there is any way that we can support, like writers, TV hosts, people in high positions, they have to play a role in raising the awareness and bringing the attention of people to this crisis which is happening. You know, when you see a child is being breastfed by a dog, and you see people eating the flesh of cats and dogs and so on, as you just said, and I could sense it in your tone. This is a reality. While we are competing to break the record in the biggest hamburger, in the biggest falafel, and in the biggest feast, where people by the end throw it in the trash. For sure, this is not the ummah which Prophet Muhammad ﷺ will be proud of on the Day of Judgment. These are not the criterions which the Prophet ﷺ said that the Muslims should maintain. When he said, مَثَلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فِي تَوَادِّهِمْ وَتَرَاحُمِهِمْ وَتَعَاطُفِهِمْ كمثل الجسد الواحد إذا اشتكى منه عضو تداعى له سائر الجسد بالحمى والسهر. The parable of the believers in their love, compassion, unity, and mercy is like one single body. This is how it should be. If any organ, if any body part of this body aches, the whole body is aching and in pain, because it's one unit. I ask Allah the Almighty to give this ummah victory based on returning them back to their deen. Because once we have this religious commitment, and once we know our duty towards our religion and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, this ummah will revive again. But without this deen, what the occupation forces in the last century did, they managed to divide us based on nationalism. So you find people who would say that is none of our business. There are people in the Muslim media now say, we have nothing to do with Syria. It's Syria's problem. It's a Sham's problem. They say the same thing to Gaza. Palestinians should manage their own business. That's their business. Trust me, you have no idea about your religion when you say that. Because Palestine does not belong only to the Palestinians. Syria does not only belong to the Syrians. Ash-Sham, Ardul Mahshar. There are many virtues for Ash-Sham and a long list of ahadith. I did make an episode or two before about the virtues of Ash-Sham, the land of the gathering by the end of time. So I believe that at least a person can gather his family members and on a regular basis share with them those ahadith and let their youngsters think and propose some ideas. What can we do? I understand that you may be targeted, you may be hurt. I believe this is all for the sake of Allah, and this is what we can do for now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ishaq from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum, Ishaq.
Yeah, I'm from Egypt. Yeah.
From Egypt. Go ahead, Sister Ishaq.
Okay, yeah, may Allah bless you for your work, mashallah, and
Ameen.
your family too, Ameen. I just wanted to, I just had a request, please. There was a sister that called from Saudi Arabia. I think it was Abdul Rahman, and she said that she wanted to, she needs, there's a revert sister who needs some help. She's a new Muslim. I'd love to help her because I've worked in Dawah in the past, inshallah, and well, I'm married to an Egyptian brother too, alhamdulillah. So we've got a bit in common. Even if I can help her over the internet.
Where are you from originally, Sister Ishaq?
I'm from originally I'm from England.
England, okay.
Yeah.
And the sister, I think, is from Hungary, or?
I can't remember, but I think it's from one of those.
Okay,
yeah,
I think the brothers in the control be more than happy to exchange your informations and hook you up together. So if you leave your phone number or email address, they will forward it to the sister, inshallah.
Yeah, I'd love to help her because I know some sisters in Riyadh too who might be able to help her.
Great, and thank you so much. Barakallah feek.
Okay, wa feeka barik. May Allah bless you. Jazakallah khair.
I mean, thank you, Ishaq. Wonderful. Alhamdulillah wa shukrillah. So Sister Abdurrahman from the KSA, if you want to call back and leave your number, or you can collect her phone number from the control, inshallah. I'd like to thank the brothers who are working very hard and extremely busy in the OB van and in the control and behind the camera. We just had a little meeting before, and we emphasized the fact that what you see on the screen is simply the result of this very hard work of about 30 to 35 people working here, seriously working like more than what they do at their own homes. And this work is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We hope so. May Allah the Almighty accept it. So I would like to extend my thanks and gratitude to them. Barakallahu feekum. With regards to crossing fingers and whether this is something permissible or not. There is a hadith which is collected by Imam Ahmad or Abu Dawood or Tirmidhi and narrated by Ka'b ibn Ujara. May Allah be pleased with him. He said that if somebody, the Prophet ﷺ narrated that if somebody made wudu perfectly and he is going to the masjid, he should not cross his fingers until he prays. Which means it is disliked to cross fingers. And I will tell you some reasons. But after the prayer, it is perfectly okay to cross fingers, whether in the masjid or outside the masjid. But would that invalidate the wudu? No, it have nothing to do with voiding the wudu. Basically, the habit of crossing fingers normally happens when the person is sitting in the masjid, either waiting for the prayer between the adhan and the iqamah, or attending the khutbah. So they set a sitting which is known as al-ihtiba in Arabic, where the person would raise his knees, sitting on the floor, then he would bury his head between his legs and lower his head like this, and he would be holding his legs with his hands crossing fingers. That would lead to, one thing would lead to another, would lead to the person may take a nap, or a slumber will overtake him, and as a result, the person may pass wind unknowingly, and as a result, his wudu may be void, and accordingly the prayer will be void. So this sitting is forbidden during the prayer. After the prayer, if you want to do cross fingers, the Prophet ﷺ did cross fingers after giving the speech and after the prayer. But it would not simply invalidate the wudu because of just crossing the fingers. Peter, inshallah, I hope you left your number. We ran out of time because I had to answer Abu Asim's question. And inshallah, I'll give you some da'wah tips in the next episode. And hopefully, inshallah, we'll connect you to some online institutes if you'd like to sign up for a course of da'wah. Jazakumullahu khairan, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for joining us live today. And include your brothers in Syria, in Burma, in Palestine, and everywhere. If I forgot a place, you already know it very well. So pray for the entire Muslim Ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate